The reason you can't make yourself do the thing, whatever the thing is right now, is not what you think it is. There's a very specific kind of stuck that you have probably never heard described accurately. You're sitting in front of the thing, you want to do it. You can feel that you want to, and nothing happens. The wanting and the doing are completely disconnected. You are not distracted, you are not avoiding it, you are not lazy, you are just stuck. And you have no idea why. If that is exactly what it feels like, this video is going to explain something that nobody has explained to you before. It is not laziness. It is not a lack of willpower. It is not that you don't care enough or aren't trying hard enough or need more discipline. Willpower doesn't work on this. Neither does motivation. Neither does the guilt you've been using as a kickstart, which is not a kickstart at all. It is an accelerant for the exact thing it's trying to fix. What is actually happening has a name. It has a mechanism. And understanding that mechanism is the only thing that actually changes it. Before I tell you what it is, I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about the last time you sat in front of something you genuinely wanted to do and couldn't start. Not didn't want to, couldn't. The wanting was real. The inability wasn't resistance. It was absence. Where was that? When was it? Hold that. We are going to come back to it. In this video, 4 things. 1. Why the framework you've been using to understand this is wrong, and what the right one is. 2. The neuroscience of what is actually happening in your brain when you can't begin, with a name, a mechanism, and a reason. 3. How to recognize it in yourself, right now, today. 4 specific protocols for getting your brain back online, not through willpower, but through neuroscience. For centuries, the inability to work has been treated as a moral failure. Laziness is one of the 7 deadly sins. Productivity culture tells us that our worth is our output. If you're not moving, you're failing. That framework is not just wrong. It is causing measurable neurological damage to millions of people. Chronic self-criticism for low motivation doesn't increase motivation. It decreases it. The shame spiral is not a kickstart. It's an accelerant for the exact shutdown it's trying to prevent. So what is actually happening? What does it mean when your brain refuses to start, when you sit in front of the task and feel nothing? Not laziness, not apathy. Something much more specific, something with a name. Your autonomic nervous system has 3 primary states. The first is the ventral vagal state. Safety, connection, creativity, flow. This is where learning happens, where motivation lives, where you feel like yourself. The second is the sympathetic state, fight or flight, high arousal, urgency. This is useful for short-term threats, but unsustainable as a baseline. And the third state, the one nobody talks about, is the dorsal vagal state. Shutdown, freeze. The oldest, most primitive survival response in the nervous system. When your brain determines that a threat is inescapable, that fighting or fleeing won't work, it does the only other thing it knows how to do. It conserves energy, it disconnects, it goes still. This is not laziness. This is your nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to do in the face of overwhelming threat. The problem is, in modern life, the threat isn't a predator. It's your inbox, your to-do list, your own impossible expectations. Dr. Stephen Porges named this the polyvagal theory, and what it means for you, practically, is this. You cannot think your way out of a dorsal vagal shutdown. You cannot will your way out. You cannot shame your way out, because the part of your brain responsible for willpower and motivation is offline. It went offline to protect you. Here's how you know you're not lazy. Here's how you know your brain isn't shut down. And here's how you recognize the specific thing I asked you to hold at the start of this video. That moment when the wanting was real, but the beginning was absent. 5 signs. If you recognize 3 or more, this is your video. Sign 1. You want to do the thing, but can't start. The wanting is real. The inability isn't resistance. It's absence. This is the specific detail that distinguishes shutdown from laziness. A lazy person doesn't want to do it. You want to. Your brain just won't let you begin. Sign 2. Small tasks feel enormous. Not difficult, impossible in a way that doesn't make logical sense. It makes you feel worse for noticing it. Making a phone call, sending an email, tasks your functional self would complete in 30 seconds feel, in shutdown, like mountains that have no top. Sign 3. You feel foggy, not tired exactly, more like a glass of water with too much sediment. Everything is muffled. The thoughts are there, but they won't quite resolve. This is the dorsal vagal state conserving cognitive energy, reducing processing across all systems to preserve the system itself. Sign 4. You're most productive in short, unpredictable bursts, and then back to nothing, because your nervous system briefly found a window of safety, then closed it again. The burst was real. The return to nothing is real. Neither is your fault. Sign 5. You feel shame about all of the above, which makes all of the above worse, because shame is a threat signal, and threat signals push you deeper into shutdown. Every time you judge yourself for being in shutdown, you add another brick to the wall. Your nervous system is trying to protect you behind. Protocol 1. Signal safety to your body before your brain. You cannot logic your way out of a nervous system response, but you can physiologically signal that the threat is over. A slow exhalation, longer out than in, for 30 seconds, activates the parasympathetic response directly. Not as a metaphor, as a measurable neurological shift, splashing cold water on your face. Humming. These are not wellness gimmicks. They are vagal nerve stimulation techniques. Do one of them right now, before you try to do anything else. 30 seconds. That is the entire protocol. Protocol 2. Shrink the task until your brain says yes. Shutdown is triggered by perceived magnitude. The task isn't too hard, it's too big. The goal is not to complete it. The goal is to get your nervous system to agree to begin. Open the document. That's it. Not write the document. Open it. Put on the running shoes. Don't run. Just the shoes. The moment of beginning is the only thing you need your nervous system to consent to right now. Everything after that is easier. Getting your nervous system to agree to begin is the entire job. Protocol 3. Move your body before you try to move your mind. The dorsal vagal shutdown is a physical state. Physical movement, even 2 minutes of walking, begins to shift it. Not because exercise is magical, because movement signals to your nervous system that you are not in a collapsed, inescapable threat. You're capable of action, and that signal begins to bring the rest of your brain back online. 2 minutes. Not a workout. 2 minutes of walking in whatever direction is available to you, before you try to do anything cognitive. Protocol 4. Remove the shame layer entirely, not as a comfort, as a neurological strategy. Every time you judge yourself for being in shutdown, you add a new threat signal to an already overwhelmed system. The shutdown deepens. Research by Dr. Kristen Neff shows that self-compassion improves motivation and resilience more consistently than self-criticism. Not because it feels better, because it actually works at the level where the problem is. The shame is not helping. It has never helped. And every time you catch yourself applying it, notice it, name it, and say one true thing to yourself instead. Not an affirmation. One true thing. My brain is protecting me. That is what is happening here. 1. The shutdown map. Starting tonight for the next 7 days, track your shutdown patterns. Not to judge them, to understand them. The pattern is information that tells you where the real intervention needs to happen. The tracking takes 3 minutes. Before you go to sleep tonight, answer 3 questions in a notes app or a journal. 1. Did I experience shutdown today? 2. What was happening in the hour before it? 3. What time of day was it? After 7 days, the pattern will be visible. Most people discover 2 things. Their shutdowns cluster around a specific time of day, and they are almost always preceded by a specific type of event, a difficult conversation, a period of sustained demand, or a chronic low-level stress they have been ignoring. Tonight's action, 3 questions, before sleep, notes app or journal. 3 minutes. Do it tonight, not tomorrow. What to watch for after 7 days. The pattern will cluster around something specific. When you see it, that is where the intervention needs to happen. Not in your productivity system, in your nervous system's sense of safety around that specific trigger. 2. The safety signal. Build one 10-minute safety signal into your day, not a reward, a neurological reset. The specific kind that signals to your dorsal vagal state that the threat has reduced. A 10-minute walk with no phone and no agenda. A conversation with one person who genuinely makes you feel calm. 10 minutes of doing something that requires presence but no performance. Cooking something simple, a brief period outdoors, anything that is not achievement oriented. These are not luxuries. They are maintenance for the nervous system that is running your ability to function. This week's action, schedule it right now. Same time every day, 10 minutes, no phone, no agenda. Add it to your calendar before you finish this video. What to watch for. After 3 consecutive days, the quality of the shutdown will begin to change. Not disappear, change. Shorter, less complete. The window between the shutdown state and the beginning state will narrow. This is the safety signal working. 3. The pre-decided micro-action. Decide right now, before the next shutdown arrives, what your one micro-action will be. Not a to-do list, one thing. The specific smallest possible beginning for the task you most often avoid. Open the document. Put on the shoes. Fill the glass of water. Write it down. Put it where you will see it during the shutdown. Because when the shutdown hits, your decision-making capacity is reduced. Which means decisions made in advance are far more likely to be followed than decisions made in the moment of shutdown. The research on behavioral activation is clear. Beginning is the hardest neurological step. Once begun, the rest is easier. Every time you manage the micro-action, every time you do the one thing when the shutdown was pulling you back, that is evidence for your nervous system that action is survivable. The evidence accumulates. The shutdowns get shorter. The beginnings get easier. Decide now, before the next shutdown. Write your one micro-action right now, the specific smallest beginning for the thing you most avoid. Write it on paper or in your phone. Put it where you will see it. What to watch for. For the first time you use the micro-action in a real shutdown, it may feel almost absurdly small. That is correct. The goal is not progress. The goal is your nervous system agreeing to begin. Everything after the beginning is different territory. You were never lazy. You were a person whose nervous system learned somewhere along the way that the world was not entirely safe. That effort sometimes leads to humiliation. That trying sometimes leads to failure. That rest sometimes leads to punishment. And your brain, doing its job perfectly, began to protect you from those outcomes in the only way it knows how. It shut down the parts that would expose you to risk. It kept you still. It kept you safe. The goal now is not to override that system. It's to convince it, slowly, consistently, with evidence, that safety is available, that beginning is survivable, that you are not the threat it's protecting you from. You have always been capable. Your brain just needed someone to tell it the threat was over. Now it knows. If this finally explains something you have been trying to understand for years, subscribe and send this to someone who needs to stop blaming themselves for something that was never about blame.